All right, Schlockmeisters fans, we're going to finish up this drive-in collection here with Macabre, otherwise known as Frozen Terror. Let's check it out. This is Jane Baker. Her husband just left, and now she's calling her lover.
Hi, it's me. Half an hour, okay?
So she leaves her kids to go have sex with somebody else.
Sidney, look after the children for me, will you?
After she left, her daughter did some poking around, and she's pretty sure Mom is cheating. And she is. There's Fred.
Oh, Fred.
Meanwhile, back at home, the daughter, Lucy, decides to drown her brother. What a bitch. Mom doesn't care. She's in the throes of passion. She gets a call that you better come home quick.
Control yourself.
Fred's going to drive her, and Fred's going to get them in an accident. Fast forward 1 year, Mom has been in a mental institution. She's out now, and she decides she's going to move in to the boarding house where she and Fred used to do the deed. That's Robert. He's blind. So inside this boarding house, it's like an apartment. She's moving in, and there's a lock on the freezer for some reason. Robert's blind, doesn't get a lot of action.
Well, I made some dinner. Nothing special, but if you care to join me.
No, I can't. I'm afraid I'm busy tonight.
So she spurned Robert's advances, but it looks like she has some sort of romantic evening planned for herself. Oh, she has a shrine to her dead lover, Fred. And I guess she's fantasizing about him. Meanwhile, her daughter Lucy is still with Dad. They're going about their lives. They decide to pay Mom a visit. It's a little awkward between husband and wife. And between Mommy and daughter. She's taking a bath, but she invites Robert in. I mean, he's blind, he can't see anything. Although we're not going to see it now, she's going into that locked freezer. Seems like something's inside there. Robert overhears her talking about Fred. Robert asks a sighted friend to look up an old newspaper. And then we learn that Fred indeed was decapitated.
Yesterday's tragic accident on.
Lucy stops by when Mom isn't there and drops off a photo of her dead brother, which she killed.
I didn't think there was...
No one. Is that clear? No one is to go upstairs.
She's not happy. One day after Jane left, Robert did some snooping around in her room and appears to find an earlobe. Lucy stops by again.
It's an anniversary. It's the day my brother was drowned. Every year my father and I go to see him at the cemetery.
Now we're finally going to get a reveal. Jane's in bed. And it looks like there's somebody with her. While she's fooling around with whatever, Robert checks the freezer, which is unlocked, and he finds that it's empty. He hides when Jane comes in and puts something back in the freezer. Look closely now. I think you can see where this is going. After she leaves, he opens the freezer, and it's Fred's head!
Of my head, Santa.
Robert calls her husband,
Your imagination seems to have gotten the best of you.
overheard by
The
Lucy.
whole story is absurd. I'm sorry.
Lucy stops by to find out for herself. Yep, that's a head.
Tell me! Tell me that!
You're imagining things, Robert. You're jealous of my father, of the whole family. You're afraid my mother's going to go back home and leave you alone.
Lucy came over to make soup for Mom and Robert, and she put the earlobe in it.
I can tell you now, but only you.
The truth comes out.
At this point, no one will believe you anyway.
What?
It wasn't easy to keep him underwater. He kept struggling, but I did it for you. You and
You
Daddy.
bitch!
Well, she gets even for her killing her son by drowning her in the bathtub, too. She pushes Robert down the stairs. He knocks himself out. She goes to get Fred's head, and she makes out with it. Robert comes to. The two of them fight. He puts her head in the oven, and she fries. Fred goes back in the bedroom, and in a what the fuck moment, all right, let's talk about this movie, Macabre, otherwise known as Macabre. Now, the only reason I had this movie is because I picked up a pre-recorded VHS sometime over the years for a movie called Frozen Terror, which showed a picture of a severed head in a refrigerator. Never actually watched the movie until today, and I've had it probably in my collection for 20 years. And I'm sorry to say that I didn't watch it because I really enjoyed this movie. It's directed by Lamberto Bava, who directed Blade in the Dark right here on the other side of this disc here. And they were his first two movies that he directed by himself. And this one I thought was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. It takes place in New Orleans, and it was allegedly based on a true story somewhat, although that last scene, I don't know. But anyway, so this woman cheating on her husband. She leaves her kids with the caretaker or something and goes to screw this guy named Fred at this boarding house in New Orleans somewhere. Well, the oldest daughter, Lucy, who's like 12 or 13, thinks that mom is cheating. So in order to, get revenge, she decides to kill her brother. Yeah. So the little bitch takes her brother in the bathtub and drowns him and makes it look like an accident. Somehow gets a hold of her mother. Mother comes tearing home with Fred driving, and they get into a car accident. Fred is decapitated. Mom goes in a mental home for a year. Fast forward this year, she gets out, and she's still not quite right in the head. She decides to go back to that boarding house where she and Fred used to meet and decides to move in there, even though she's still married, presumably, and has, her daughter Lucy at home. She moves in, and Robert, the caretaker at this boarding house, he's blind, but he hears her talking about Fred, and it almost sounds like she's pleasuring herself to Fred, and he's weirded out by this. He doesn't understand. He keeps checking this refrigerator sometimes because there's this lock on this fridge, and he doesn't know what's in there, and we're led to believe something spooky is in that fridge. Well, Lucy comes over a couple times and reunites with her mother. At one point, Robert finds a earlobe with an earring in it. He's weirded out by that. Next thing you know, at one point, he spies on Jane. She's in the bed with what looks like a man. We see his head, and we find out later some pillows under the covers. Then she puts something in the freezer. Robert goes to look, and it's the severed head of Fred, her lover. I don't know where she got the head. She was in the mental home for a year. Somehow she acquired the head, and she's been keeping it in the freezer and making love to it as best she can, kissing it, making out with it. Well, he calls her husband and says, "There's a fucking head in the freezer here." He doesn't believe her, but Lucy does believe it. He overhears it. She goes over there, and somehow, for whatever reason, she decides to make some soup for both Robert and her mom. And then mom takes a bite, and she gets the piece with the earlobe in it. So Lucy was making some Fred head soup. Well, mom freaks out, and then Lucy says, "Yeah, I drowned my brother, by the way." So Jane freaks out and then drowns Lucy in the bathtub too. Knocks Fred down the stairs. He's knocked out. Knocks Robert down the stairs. Gets Fred's head again. Starts kissing it all over and just licking it and loving it. And then Robert wakes up. He gets into a struggle with Jane. He ends up putting Jane's head in the oven. Burns her and something poked her in the eye too, or right above the eye. She dies. And then he goes into the bedroom to check on the head. And then the head bites him in the neck, and that's how our movie ends. So the head came alive. It's kind of like the ending of the movie Pieces, except for that whacked out ending, which is what the hell. But it was a very enjoyable film. A little bit of nude scenes from Jane, in this movie as well. A couple of decent gore scenes actually, and the severed head in the freezer. Wow, it was a really enjoyable movie. I liked this one a lot. So anyway, don't know what else I can tell you about it, but I wish I would have watched it over the years because I would have enjoyed it. Anyway, it's called Macabre. You can get it on this double DVD with A Blade in the Dark. Also another title, Frozen Terror, if you find the VHS of it. I will leave a link to something down below. Maybe it's on Blu-ray now, I'm not sure, but I'll leave a link to something down below. You should definitely click that link, buy it from Amazon, and watch it, because it's a good, fun movie. Check it out, leave some comments. Macabre, 1980, watch it. Bye.